Hey everybody, I'm Clif. I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm sober since August the 15th of 2001, and for that short amount of time, I'm as grateful as I know how to be. And it's good to be back in Tennessee. Really good to be back here. How many people here tonight less than 1 year sober? That's phenomenal. Thank you. Great. Well, if you don't hear anything else I say tonight, I want you to catch it first because you could be asleep later. So, if you don't hear anything else I say tonight, please hear this, that you're wanted, welcomed, and needed in Alcoholics Anonymous. That you're absolutely wanted, welcomed, and needed here. So I'm particularly really glad that you're here. And hope you hear something tonight that make you at least curious and want to come back, maybe hear a better speaker. Who knows? I mean, I can tell you there's one thing that differentiates me from all the other speakers here this weekend. You might want to hear them again. That's the deal. So, but I'm glad to be here, and particularly grateful to Ben for asking us to come in and do this tonight. And so it's an honor and privilege to do anything in AA. Really, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's an honor and privilege to do anything. This just happens to be my job tonight. I promise you. My home group last night, they did not care that I was in Tennessee this weekend. They just want to know, are you going to be here next week to set the chairs up? That's all they care about. They're a bunch of selfish people in that group, you know. They're just one-track mind people over there. I remember the first time I ever was asked to go give a talk somewhere, like in another group or another town. I went to this little town about 30 miles outside of Oklahoma City, and I remember I came back the next day, all full of myself, and my sponsor said, well, how'd it go? And I said, well, they must have really enjoyed it. They all got up and clapped. And he said, maybe they were just glad you're done. So you'll have to be the judge of that tonight, how that all goes. But I'm extraordinarily grateful. I don't really have a lot to say tonight, but it's going to take me about an hour to say it. I know that. So I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love what we do here. I love everything about it. I really do. And if you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous, I welcome you here tonight. If you're brand new, if you're nearly new, welcome you here tonight. Hope you hear something over the weekend or at your next home group meeting or whatever that makes you want to stay. Because Alcoholics Anonymous is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. It truly, because it's given me everything in my life. My friend Cindy said one time, everything in my life, I should have a stamped property of Alcoholics Anonymous on it. Because everything I have in my life today is a direct result of what's happened to me since I arrived at the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous. And Ben told me, I don't want you to tell your story tonight, so I'm not doing that. He told me just pick a topic. The topic that I wanted to do tonight was how to make people make amends to us, which I thought really everybody would want to hear. I thought that was a great topic. He's kind of poo-pooed that, and I thought, all right, we'll do that. Although I got good stuff on that, So we'll just kind of see what happens, and we'll just kind of, I think the greatest part about tonight may be that we just start the conversation for the weekend. I think that's the best thing that happens on times like this where we get together and really, I don't expect tonight that, or any time that I'm asked to give a talk, that there's going to be some kind of revolutionary moment in somebody's life, some pivotal point that years later they chase me down and go, God, you just changed my life. I don't ever expect that to happen. What I expect to happen is that something that you might hear tonight, not necessarily what I say, but something you may hear tonight may start a conversation with you and your sponsor or you and your friend on the ride back home in the hotel room over the weekend. That conversation. Permission to do something maybe that say something that you've been holding on to. Or allow yourself permission to talk about something that you just need to talk about. And so I really believe that's kind of the purpose why we do these things, and while we're asked to give talks and all that. It's just a moment that we have that, maybe I get some identification. I remember I gave a talk one time, and there was this kid, and he was writing down stuff. Note taker. Love those people. I like to see what I said, And I cozied up to him afterwards, and I said, hey, I saw you were taking notes. And he said, hey, Jim. I said, I saw you were taking notes. And said, yeah. He said, I really like when you said this. And he started telling me what he heard. And I'm thinking, I didn't say that. But I know that's how it works here. I know that's how, I know that's what the process is here. That's why I don't have anything really to say. It's what God has for you to hear. And so from that standpoint, I'm really grateful to be here tonight. And I'm excited to see what I say too. So I don't know anybody that ever came to Alcoholics Anonymous that was sitting at home one day and thought, you know what? My life is going so good. I got money in the bank. Job's happy with me. Wife, husband, they're happy with me. Kids all happy. Things are just going so good. I'm just going to go down to AA and see if my life will just get a little better. If there's somebody here that's like that, please come see me, because I haven't met you in the 22 years I'm here. My experience in Alcoholics Anonymous is people who have come here and burned their lives absolutely to the ground. And they've come here because they didn't have anywhere else to go. They've come here because they weren't on a big winning streak, mostly on a losing streak when we get here. Or that's how it appears to us. It appears when I arrive on the shores of Alcoholics Anonymous that I'm on a big losing streak. But what I know about all that is that the book talks about I can't differentiate true from the false. And so what I know today is that on August the 15th, 2001, what I believed on that moment was the worst day of my life has really turned out to be the best day of my life. Although I would have bet against that when I got here. Because I can promise you, those things that I talked to you about, that people who were doing so good never come to AA, that was not my experience. I was not doing well when I showed up at Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have that stuff that Silkworth wrote about, that restless, irritable, discontented stuff. Wilson talked about it, the bedevilments. I'm a bedeviled person. I have that idea that bedevilments kind of plagues me. And I don't know, but there seems to me that our book talks about, in a couple of places, when it talks about who we are, talks about how we are. It talks about us being something a little different than other people. It talks to us about being the extreme example of self-will run right. It talks to us about more than most, the alcoholic lives the double life. And I think sometimes things happen to us that we feel, we hold on to, we internalize things that happen to us that has really nothing to do with making us alcoholics. I'm alcoholic because when I drink, something different happens to me. I've got that allergy. When I drink, I get thirsty, and when I'm not drinking, all I think about is drinking again. And I'll tell you I'm not going to drink, but I always end up drinking. That can't drink, can't not drink. I got that. But all that is magnified by our malady. The book talks about that. Silkworth talks about it. It says the alcoholic becomes restless, irritable, discontent, till they can once again get the sense of ease and comfort. Not real ease and comfort, but the sense of it. Real ease and comfort, I've discovered since I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous, only comes from one place, and that's from a place of the power. That's the God as I've come up to understand it, that it works in my life. And if you're new or you're nearly new, and I say God, and it gives you what we call in Oklahoma the heebie-jeebies, it just makes you want to do one of those, get up, run out of the room like your hair's on fire. Whatever you believe in, just know when I say God, that's what I'm talking about. I don't want to get anybody offended and run out of the room. Just know when I say God, because it takes a long time to say power greater than myself. I'm just going to use some shorthand tonight. So when I say God, don't let that offend you or run you out. I'm just talking about whatever you believe in. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's where I've only found real ease and comfort, for being connected to a power. And I only found that in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was only able to find that power here. I was only able to get connected to God here. And that's not to say that I didn't have moments in my life that I didn't feel some sense of power. I would be less than honest if I said that. But I believe that restless, irritable discontent, the things that happen to us, we intensify them. Some of you may have noticed, but maybe not, that I'm a little bit vertically challenged. It would be easy to miss. I get that. I mean, you could have just overlooked it totally. I mean, I totally get that. But I am. But growing up, I was extremely small. And I'm always picked last for everything. I mean, I'm the last guy picked for everything. And but I want to be picked. I think that's the deal, you know. I want to be picked. I really want to be picked. And I'm so small, I'm always picked last for everything. And probably rightly so, because I'm a horrible athlete. But I should have been picked last. But at the time, I don't know that, you know. I just think because I'm small, they're not picking me. And like more than most, I internalize that. And I begin to think there's something wrong with me. I'm different. And maybe that's you. Maybe you've had something like that in your life. Maybe you just looked in the mirror and thought, I'm just different. Or maybe you heard something, you know, people said to you. I think most of all the old ideas I walk around with happened to me on the playground. I think I got old ideas that I don't fit in, that I'm different, that I'm not good about. I think that happened to me in grade school. I don't think I woke up at 25 and thought, Jesus, I'm not good enough, you know. Those ideas have plagued me for a long time. And I think they are intensified by the fact that I suffer from this restless, irritable discontent, this divine dissatisfaction. I think there's some divine dissatisfaction in my life. Now, I don't know that. I couldn't have told you that if you know, I couldn't even have said restless, irritable discontent. As a matter of fact, the first time I was in an AA meeting, I mean really in an AA meeting, I don't mean just showing up, not just being a visitor in AA. I mean, when I first sat down in Alcoholics Anonymous and started kind of paying attention here, the first time I heard somebody talk about restless, irritable discontent, I thought, they're a genius. By God, they're describing me to a T. I didn't know they were reading out of the book. I didn't know that. I just thought they was really smart, you know. But that describes us so well, particularly for me, the dissatisfaction part or discontented part. That unhappy, dissatisfied, particularly with my current circumstances. Because I always want to be somewhere else with somebody else doing something else. You know, if I'm here, I need to be over there. No matter what I'm doing, the grass always looks greener on the other side. You ever have that? That grass always over there. Got sober, found out that guy was just taking care of his yard. I didn't know that, you know. That's why it's greener over there. They're doing something. And I'm over here not doing nothing. But those things that happen to me, and I'm not saying none of that makes me alcoholic. I'm alcoholic for what I described. I got the allergy and obsession. When I drink, I'm off and running. But it's what's behind all that. It's what's behind the obsession. It's what's behind that. It's the suffering of the old ideas. It's the suffering of that things that just happen. They're just life that get on me. And when life gets on me, I internalize that stuff. And, you know, I'm very guilty of believing everything I think or feel. I just believe that stuff. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. Matter of fact, it's better if it's not. I just believe it. I'll just make stuff up in my head. Something happens to me, I just make it up. I mean, when the book talks about our resentments, fancied or real, I love that part. Because I can fancy me some resentments now, you know. I could be going down the street and I see Jeremiah and he's coming at me. We're both in a hurry. We're in a hurry, you know. And he's going, I'm going opposite directions. And he looks at me and says, hey, Clif, nice tie. And he just goes past me. And immediately, I don't know how your brain works, but my brain does this. What the hell do you mean by that? Nice tie, huh? So I start thinking, which is a critical error. I start thinking, what does he mean by that? And so what I start doing, and maybe you can relate to this, I begin to plot Jeremiah's death. I mean, I just do. I mean, and possibly for the next, 2-3 weeks maybe. I don't know. I just think about 832 scenarios. If when I see him again, this is how it's going to look. Play that out, right? Play those scenarios out. And, you know, invariably what happens is 3 weeks later, I see him coming again, and I'm ready because I got 832 scenarios. I'm ready. You know? And he comes up to me and says, "Hey, Clif, I'm sorry I was in a hurry the other day. You know how my brother loves your ties, man. Where did you get that one? I want to get him one just like, because he'll love it." Well, I got nothing for that. You know, I didn't have that scenario. I have the scenario where he dies at the end. Those are always my scenarios. Somebody dies at the end. But that's the way it works for me, because I internalize things, and it's all personal. You know, it's all about me. And maybe you're this way too. You know, when I read in the book, it said, you know, selfishness, self-centeredness, this is the root of our problem. Now, we could take a survey here, but I'm just going to share my experience, and you could look into your heart, find your own. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, if someone would have said to me, "Clif, write down the top 50, hell, go to 100, top 100 problems in your life." Selfishness, self-centered, they ain't even making the list, man. They don't even creep on the bottom. I mean, it's just, because I'm a giver. You guys know that. I mean, I'm a damn giver. Yeah? But it's always with a hook. It's always I'm like the Godfather. Maybe someday I'll ask you to do a favor for me, kind of thing. It's always with a hook. I mean, I always got to have something. There's an extraction. It's a commercial transaction. My relationships in life are all commercial transactions. But this pain of life, these things that happen to us, I think that fuel for a guy like me that, you know, intensifies those feelings. Bill talks about, you know, we all go through teenage angst. I think alcoholics intensify that angst. I think we just latch onto it. I mean, I just think it's, by God, you know, it's all about me all the time. And whatever happens to me, it's just fuel for the malady. It's fuel for my spiritual, for that divine disturbance that I have internally in me. I grew up on a ranch farm. Whatever impresses you people the most, that's where I grew up, and we raised cattle. We were workers. You know, we got up early, man. Cold weather. That's why I became a lawyer. Hell, I didn't want to get up anymore and break ice. I mean, I was out on that stuff, man. But we'd get up, break ice early in the morning, let the cattle, you know, so we ran about 200 head of cattle. And had to get up and do all those chores and stuff. We worked, man. We worked. And I've got a vision for how my life should work. I got a vision of how everybody in my life, I have a role for them. I don't tell them what the role is. That would be so unfair, really, wouldn't it? I mean, I just have a vision of how our interactions should be, because I'm selfish and self-centered. I just see how it should be, you know. I meet you, and, you know, within the first few minutes, I have our whole deal worked out. I don't tell you that. But, I mean, you should just know. I mean, when we have interactions, you should just know how it is. And my whole life is built around like that. I had that relationship with my parents. I had an idea about how my life should look with them. And if I didn't get what I wanted, I would have a fit. You guys have fits around here? You know, where you just lay down on the floor, kick and scream till you get what you want? I'd have fits. It's ugly at 16, but I'd have them, you know. I'm not embarrassed to have those at 16. If you get what you want, you do what you got to do, right? So, but I would just manipulate people to do what I wanted them to do, and you know, however that needed to look. But it was always that kind of relationship. And but I had this divine, this dissatisfaction now, this idea that I'm just restless, irritable, discontent, can't put a finger on it, can't say that's what it is. But when I drank, that all went away. That was the key. The drinking did something about that. The drinking fixed that problem temporarily. How Bill described it, you know, boomerang in flight. Boomerang looks beautiful on the way out, turns not so much, you know, here it comes at us. But it's like that, you know, when I drank it, it assuaded that feeling, that distance, that pain of growing up. Seemed like it, that pain of living, the pain of life. It just seems to do away with that. And, you know, I always think about when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, people would say to me before I got here, and maybe they said it to you, particularly people who are new, probably fresher for you. that they would say things like, well, you got a drinking problem. You have a drink. If you stop drinking, and I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, they said, you don't have a drinking problem. You have a drinking solution. Because when you drink, it fixes that part of you till it doesn't. Now, if you're new or you're nearly new, don't go home and tell them people that you live with that guy from Oklahoma said, I don't have a drinking problem. Because if you heard that, I did not say that. They'll probably fly to Oklahoma to hunt me down if they tell them that. Let's let them believe that. That's what you got. But, some things that happened to me growing up that were pivotal for me. When I was in high school, I had a friend of mine whose daddy was the minister of the First Baptist Church in the little town I grew up in. And one day in history class, she leaned over and she said, hey, they're going to have a revival. I know people in the South here in Tennessee know what a revival is. I don't have to explain to you people. They're going to have a revival at the church starting Wednesday night. You want to come? Now, had she asked me, listen, the Coors beer truck is going to be parked here tonight. We're going to go rip it off. We're going to rip about 7 cases off. It wouldn't matter what she asked. I'm in. Because anybody asking me to do anything to feel included, I'll do it. Because I just want to be a part. Because I don't feel a part, I want to be a part. And so she said, would you like to go? And I said, yes, of course I would. And I remember I went to that First Baptist Church that night. And and I know we got some people from New Jersey and New York, non-Southern people here. So I'll explain revivals to you people. They bring in this charismatic minister whose job is to harvest as many souls for God on any given day as they possibly can. I think they're working on some kind of spiritual commission. I'm not sure, but that's their job. They just harvest, right? And this guy was really good, man, and I go down, take the call. Now, the summer that all happened to me, the summer before this event, I was so small. My mom and dad wouldn't let me play football. My dad was a star basketball point guard. He was just really good, and I'm just not that good. I mean, I'm fast, but I'm not coordinated, and so I'm no good, really. I'm not athletic, but I like to think I am, and that's my problem my whole life. I don't see me how I really am. My whole life I see myself as kind of this, Jim Morrison kind of character, kind of, you know what I mean? But I'm really kind of like Opie Taylor. Yeah, that's kind of who I am. But I see myself different than that. I mean, so my brother was a state champion bull rider. And he played football, ran track, all that stuff. That's just not me. I want to be, but it's not me. And so I'm so small, they don't ever let me play football. But that summer before, or year before that, I talked my parents into letting me go ride bulls, because that's what my brother did. And I want you to try to figure the logic in this that I have when I did inventory. They wouldn't let me play football, but they let me get on the back of 1,600-pound bulls. Just think about that for a minute. I mean, try to get some sense in all that. I can't ever picture it, but I'm in. I'm in. Anyway, the summer before my friend asked me to do this, I'm riding bulls at a buddy of mine's house. And I get off, and one turns on me, and he rolls me up. And I pop up, and I start to fall back. They grab me, and my neck just immediately swells up. They take me home. I go, and I hang out for about 5 days. My mom and dad want to take me to the hospital. I go, I don't think it's that bad. I think I just sprained my neck. And about the 5th day, I'm hurting so bad that I'm begging them to take me. And if you go in a hospital with 2 conditions, heart or broken neck, you go right to the front of the line, right? And they start sticking all these pins in me and take me to get x-rays and come back in. They tell my mom to sit down. They say, your son has suffered a fracture between his first and second vertebra. 1 out of 100 people will walk away from it. 98 will die. One will be a paraplegic. Your son's the guy that's going to walk away from that. And you would think a guy would be grateful for that. And for 6 weeks, I laid in bed saying the one thing I found I was kind of good at, God took that away from me. And I spent the summer cursing God for finding something and yet take it away from me. Take it away from me. When I got out of the hospital and tooled around a little bit, I was a VOAG kid. Probably some VOAG kids here too. My VOAG teacher got me into public speaking, which I'm so grateful for today. But he said, you're always out there telling the stories on the playground. Just why don't you try this, right? So it's come to find out I was pretty good at that too. So when my friend says, come to this revival with me, I thought, sure. And this guy was really good. I mean, Altar Call City, man, which we're going to have a little later tonight too. So Charlie, I get here, kind of feel that all coming back, right? So anyway, can I get an amen? Okay, so bless you, Jack. Bless you, Jack. And so I tell my friend, I think maybe this is the deal. Because I think this is happening for guys like me that's conflicted, that I think there is a power. I believe there's something, but they're screwing me. And so I begin to make a commercial transaction with God. I begin to make a commercial transaction with Him. I begin to define the terms of the relationship. That you're screwing me, so I get it. This is a no good deal for me. You're taking stuff away from me. And I remember I went and talked to my friend, maybe this is the deal. I've been called to preach because I don't know, you're 16, you're trying to figure it out. I'm laying all bed all summer cursing God. I think, well, maybe this is the gig right here. Who knows? And I remember saying, you need to talk to my daddy. And so she hooked me up with her dad. I talked to him and said, you need to talk to this. I'm going to set it up where you can talk to this guy. And so he lined it up. And so on a Friday night, I was to have dinner with this evangelist before the Friday night service. I didn't tell you, my mom and dad, in addition to having that ranch and run those cattle, they also had a liquor store. My dad had been a bootlegger. And he got legit and bought a liquor store. And when people would ask me what my parents did, I would always be ashamed of that. I can't tell you why. Just was. So if you asked me what they did, I'd say we're in the cattle business. And as a throwaway, as if we had multiple divisions in our enterprise, I would say, and they own a liquor store, just kind of as a throwaway. And I remember that night, and he was getting to try to figure me out. Who are you? Who is this kid I'm talking to? So he's asking me pertinent questions, as one would when you're sitting down with people. And so he gets to the question, tell me about what your family does. And I told him, they're in the cattle business. Any Baptists here, by the way? Kip, you're my man. So I don't mean any disrespect by this. So please, this story has nothing to do with them and everything to do with me. Our book talks about be quick to find where religious people are right. They have this sense of how the world's supposed to operate. I wished I'd have had that, It was nothing on them. It's all about me because it's my perception and how I see things. So he asked me the question, well, what does your family do? So I told him, they're in the cattle business. And as the throwaway, I said, and they own a liquor store. And it was how I remember it, which may not be true, but how I remember it was he was going up with a bite of mashed potatoes with a piece of corn on it. He just kind of double clutched, Right? And he said to me, I think this is what he said. He said, so your family's in the liquor business and you think you've been called to preach. Now, how I heard him say it was different than that. What I heard him say was like the guy who was writing stuff down. What I heard him say was, because of who you are, you'll never have God's grace. Just won't. And that's the day the commercial transaction with God got sealed. That doesn't matter whatever I'm going to get out of this life. It's going to be on my terms, my way. And if God will just do His thing and I just do mine, it'll be okay. I'm going to live my life like God doesn't exist. And but yet on that path through my life, there would be periods of time in my life, and maybe you can identify with this, that I would have this almost achingness. We talk about an aloneness in here. Bill talks about it in the 12 and 12 in step 5. He talks about anxious apartness. Anxious apartness. And I have this apartness, it's almost like I become a seeker, but I don't know I'm becoming a seeker. I find myself in parishes, churches. I find myself in these places looking for something that I don't really believe in or even believe will work for me. And maybe that's your experience. Maybe you have that divine disturbance in you. Maybe you have that piece of you that you live your life like there is no God, but in the late at night, in the recesses of the quietness of your life, there's a disturbance where you lie in curiosity and wonder whether or not how solidified I am in my beliefs in that. In the chapter We Agnostics, it talks about in the final analysis. That kind of deal. When that's when the car's turning end over end, right? The final analysis. That spot. What do we cry out for? That kind of deal. And I think that that divine disturbance that we have helps us, people like me, and maybe people like you. That divine disturbance helps us to be made ready for this amazing gift that is given to, I believe, everybody. I'm not such today that I believe that we're just the lucky ones. See, luck is, man, that's just one of those deals where I just plucked out of the air that, I got it, but my buddy didn't get it, That's just kind of the religion of the lazy, really. It's just luck. No, I believe today a little different than that. I believe that there's grace for all of us and everybody who's not here. I don't believe that grace happened to fall on us and by God, we're just so damn lucky and we're just, fortunate, really. Because I just something I experienced. I think that divine disturbance prepares people like us. We try to arrest that with whiskey because it calms that disturbance. It gives that restless, irritable, and discontentedness. It gives it an abatement. It enjoins it for the time. That gives us that reprieve, that respite from what we feel in the moment, the turmoil we may feel, the noise in our head, the separateness that we may have. Dr. Jung, when he wrote Bill, and that letter when Bill wrote him at the 25th anniversary of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he kind of said, thank you, you may not remember Roland, but you gave him the solution. And Jung writes back, so I do remember Roland. I certainly do. And he says something in there. He talks about spiritus contra spiritum, whiskey versus God, spirit versus spirit. He says the thirst of an alcoholic is a low level, kind of a medieval thirst for God. This divine disturbance that we have. And I think what happens to a guy like me is that I get made ready for the divine appointment that everybody in this room has arrived at. Everyone in this room, and many of those not in this room tonight, who have been here have had that same divine appointment that each one of us have come upon. This divine appointment set about in motion, wheeled in motion by what? Our own actions. That I've set it all in motion one more time. And I think that if external consequences was the measuring stick to get people, if that was the measuring rod to get people like us sober, this would be a really small crowd tonight. Because consequences, Those may be really beneficial for a guy like me when I'm leveraging my decision in step 3 because of the unmanageability in my life. It may be a great crowbar to help me lever the decision over that I'm making to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. But consequences have never kept a cat like me sober. I mean, a step 1 experience, because lots of step 1 experiences for me, a lot of opportunities when grace knocked on the door. But because I'm selfish and self-centered, I pull the window closed. It doesn't have anything to do with grace. It has to do with my own selfishness, self-centeredness. It has to do with my alcoholism. Grace raises the window and I close it. It's as simple as that. But I think those consequences, when they happen, they set us up also for this divine appointment for the process of what has to happen for a guy like me is a step 1 experience without followed up with the rest of the steps, another bad day in my life. You have something bad happens to me. Somebody doesn't get through the window of grace. One of God's intelligent agents doesn't get through the window of grace. A couple of days later, you know what a guy like me says? I almost overreacted and went to AA. Thank God I didn't do that, man. Whoo! Man, thank God. It almost came to that, but thank God it ain't me. Step 1, without the benefit of the rest of the steps, just another bad day in my life. Doesn't have anything to do with grace. It has everything to do with selfish and self-centeredness for a guy like me. But I think on the day that the divine appointment arrives for a guy like me, is something different happens to me. Yeah, I've got some consequences stacked up out here. Bill described it best. He talked about it quicksand stretching all around. Boy, that's a bad place to be. That is a bad place to be in the moment, because in that moment it has little to do with the external circumstances. When Bill describes quicksand stretched out around, he said he's sitting in his house. He's not arrested. He's not in a jail cell. He doesn't have any pending indictments against him. He's not being arrested. He's sitting in his house. And he says quicksand stretched all around. The internal condition. And what has to happen for a guy like me is I have to have the internal implosion of self. And I think that's what Bill's trying to describe for people like us. When he talks about quicksand stretching all around, I'm in a spot I can't internally get out of. All my life, I've looked at the outside, if I can get here, if I can get there, the divine dissatisfaction. If I can get these people to act the way I want them to, if I can get this girl, this house, this car, this job, this whatever, fill in the blank, I'll be okay. And it never works out that way. My buddy Jack and I were talking about it today. I said, you know how much money you need to not need God? $5 more than you got right now. If you got $5 more than you got right now, you don't need God, right? Don't need God if you got that. But the truth is, it's always $5 more. It's always $5 more. But there came that time at the divine appointment where self implodes and grace is here. The window's open. And then I think the critical piece that has to happen is somebody is in the middle of this divine inconvenience. Somebody. And they crawl through our window. Somebody has some divine inconvenience. You know what that looks like? God, they're calling again. I know what they're going to say. I don't want to answer that phone. Because I know he's going to talk about her again, right? And I don't sponsor her. Or, God, I got to go to that meeting tonight. I got to go do that. I've got to get up. I got to get dressed. My God, it's going to take me 5 minutes. I got to get off this couch. My God, it's a basketball tournament, for Christ's sakes. I mean, it's divine inconvenience. And everybody in this room has been the recipient of somebody who was divinely inconvenienced. And we've been the recipient of that. We've been disturbed. We've had an appointment. And somebody was inconvenienced and yet showed up for us. They showed up for us. Somebody arrived at a point in time for us. And the craziest thing happens to us when we get that, when we have that moment when the appointment meets the person who was inconvenienced, What happens is the message of recovery begins to be delivered because the recipient at the divine appointment is finally able to hear it. The crazy thing about alcoholism? Everybody knew I had it but me. And the crazy thing about alcoholism, until you got it, you don't have it. It's crazy that way, right? You might be suspicious, but you're betting against it. I'm just telling you. I don't have that. That ain't me. Might have a small Colombian problem, but I don't have that, right? I have some Bolivian marching powder problems, but not that. I don't have a drinking problem, right? I get incredibly thirsty, right? But at that point, what happens is that the internal implosion of self happens, I believe, and somebody gets through the window. The person who's inconvenienced gets through the window. And in that moment, they carry the message of hope. And I don't know so much it matters terribly much what they say. I've thought about this a lot. I think if they share their experience, it really doesn't matter if they share it and this person hears it, because I think what happens at the divine appointment, it's what happens. It doesn't really matter what they say. It matters what I hear. And if I can hear in that moment the message of hope that they're transmitting to me, what happens is the window stays open and grace comes through. And when grace comes through, what happens for a guy like me is I get probably the greatest gift I've ever been given. An opportunity for this life. This incredible life, really. I mean, I think from one standpoint, alcoholics are the most fortunate, blessed people on earth. We get the experience of living two lives. I lived the life before August the 15th, 2001. And I've lived the life after August the 15th, 2001. I lived a godless life, and I've tried to the best of my ability to live a godly life. I lived the life before as if God did not exist, and now I try to live a life today that is the most important existence that there is. And I think in all of that is what Alcoholics Anonymous is all about. It's that idea that there's a point in time for all of us that now we have become the people that are inconvenienced. Because of that appointment, because of that divine dissatisfaction, we've had the appointment. Now we are the people who become inconvenienced. Because I believe there's a great deal of responsibility. As a matter of fact, we have a responsibility pledge, oddly enough. When anybody anywhere, right, reaches out for help, I want the hand to be there. And what? For that I, Clif, I'm responsible. I think there's a great amount of responsibility when we receive this gift, when it comes to fruition for us. When we take it and embrace it and we're willing to take the actions to go through the steps, have this transformational experience. That the person who the day before I arrived and the person the day after, two totally different people. Bill said he looked in Ebby's eyes. He was different. He was rearranged. He said he was reborn. If that gives you the heebie-jeebies too, just think about refurbished. Yeah? Refurbished, But isn't that who we are? Aren't we that piece of furniture that one time had some value to people? And because of our alcoholism, we got to get put out in the barn. We get rained on. We get marginalized. And over time, if we just forget about them, they just push us away. And God is the great refurbisher here. That he takes these marginalized people, these people who have this dissatisfaction, that show up for the appointment and somebody's inconvenience, deliver us a message of hope, and we're transformed, and we begin this transformational process. It's this unbelievable gift Unbelievable gift. Everybody in this room, if you're like me, I'm living on borrowed time. I shouldn't be here. Guy like me shouldn't be alive today. Shouldn't be alive. And I don't say that to be some kind of, grand statement. It's just a fact. If you live the alcoholic life, for most of us, we've been given an extension. The book talks about a reprieve. In lawyer terms, I remember watching those old Jimmy Cagney movies when I was growing up, and the governor would be about to execute Jimmy Cagney, about 1 minute left, and somebody break through the door and say, don't pull the switch. The governor's issued a reprieve. Stay of execution, man. That's what I'm talking about here. We've all been given a stay of execution. When? Today. Right here, right now. Living on borrowed time. Given stays of execution. Having an opportunity to have this incredible life. What am I going to do with it, right? What now that I've given this, what do I do with it? We become divinely inconvenienced. We do the things that we do to maintain what we have. To carry this message, not Clif's message, not Ben's message, not Tammy's message, the message out of the book of Alcoholics Anonymous as it relates to us by our experience. Through my experience, we share that which has happened to us. And when we do that, what happens is we see this, I hear this all the time in AA rooms. Man, the lights came on. The lights came on. He's on fire. He's on fire. Lori and I were at a conference one time. By the way, thank you, Lori, for coming. You guys are in for a treat Saturday. Please show up for that. We heard a guy say one time, and we both just love this. He said, I would rather have ignorance on fire than knowledge on ice. Yeah. And my God, how much does that happen to us? We see these guys come here. I was this way. Got on fire, just want to save the world. Want to tell non-drinkers about AA, right? Hell, I'll help them too. I don't care. I'll help everybody. But that's the deal here. We get on fire. The lights come on. That's what it was. Something. Bill said it. It was something about his eyes, and that's what we have here. This gift. And I think, although I'm not sure, I'm not telling you I've had, some kind of burning bush experience. God has not come down and said this to me, but I just have this belief, just me. I'm not trying to sell you anything, just telling you what I think. I think there's going to be a moment in time that this God of my understanding, that I've developed a relationship with, through this powerlessness, through this unmanageability, to this surrender, to this abandonment, to walk away from, to abandon, to walk away from. I think this power that I've come to establish a relationship, there'll be a day where I'm going to be face to face with this power. And I think at that time, there'll be only one question. Clif, on August the 15th of 2001, I gave you a gift. What did you do with it? Thanks for having me.